Check, mic check, mic check. We're getting there. All right. I don't know how much of that y'all got, or if you got any of it. So let me start over here again, just in case. We're learning as we go with all of this. The ones I've got joined with me tonight are Mr. Ted Nuce and Mr. Coach Bob Cervetto. I don't even remember where we were at, but guys, thank you all for being here tonight. Coach, you'll remember that. Man, I got to catch my breath now. I didn't get my knees up high enough, did I?
Correct.
All right. You'll remember, and it's been several weeks ago, maybe a couple of months ago, I mentioned this format to you. And I was telling Ted about it a while ago that it had been something that had been on my heart for a while, but it was one of those things that it just never, it wasn't coming together right. And then when we got into what's going on right now, it just the other night, it just seemed like, man, hey, this is the perfect time to do this. I'm going to say this again. These two individuals are probably the two most positive men that I've ever been around in my life. Now, guys, we're gonna jump right off into this. I told people, and y'all bear with me here, okay? Because I told people my hint last night was that these two guys had reached the pinnacle of their careers. Okay. Now here's what I'm talking about with that. Now, Ted, you're a world champion. All right. You're NFR PRCA World Champion Bull Rider 1985, correct? Coach, you're a state championship winning high school football coach 4 times back in the 90s over in the Ville. And so in your prospective careers, that's the pinnacle, correct? But now, you always weren't on the top, were you? All right. Well, Ted, turn your mic on there. And guys, I just want to give you guys an opportunity right there on the top, right there. And let her, because here's the other unique thing about you two. All right, you got Ted here. He's from the West Coast, all right, out there in Cali, and you're from the East Coast up there in Jersey, and somehow both of you ended up right here in Erath County. All right, Ted, man, share with us some of your story.
Well, I would have never bet in a million years I was ever going to live in Stephenville, Texas. You know, it's just I went to a lot of rodeos here in Texas, but never thought that I would ever leave California. And you know, God has a way of putting things together that is far beyond our beliefs.
Yes, sir.
And I work on my belief all the time because I know how important it is to me and to God. So I'm constantly working on that. But where I started in California, my life, where I began is I was adopted when I was 2 weeks old. And the reason why I was adopted is because my birth mother, her husband was in prison. And she got pregnant with me, and it wasn't going to be a good deal if I was around whenever he got out. And so my mother, Mrs. Nuce, and John Nuce, my dad, they adopted me, and they gave me an opportunity that I would have not had. And I just feel like everything that's happened to me throughout my life, it's just like God's hand print is all over it. I've struggled. I've made up my mind when I was a child. When I was 9 years old, it was really tough for me. But when I was 9, when I found out that I was adopted, that was really tough because I didn't understand how a mother could give her child up. I didn't understand that, and it took me a long time to understand that. And the second thing is, I told myself, you know what? You are not going to be poor. You are not going, to be poor. And at 9 years old, I made some pretty big choices in my life that, that things were going to be different.
There you go, man, amazing. Now, Coach, what about what about your story?
Well, it kind of circles back to I was in 4th grade. And I had an uncle that got stationed in the Air Force down here at Carswell Air Force Base. My mom's brother would come down to visit. It's really nice. Come down, everybody liked it. We go back to Jersey, hang out there a little bit. My sister is about 8 years older than me. She graduated, and they didn't get a chance to come down, so she wanted to go to school in Texas. So she came down, didn't wind up going to school for some reason. Wound up working at Blue Cross Blue Shield with this girl. She had a brother. The story goes, she got married, so we came down my 7th grade year. It's good, man. I was during Thanksgiving. I'm in shorts and T-shirt. I'm thinking, man, I'm liking this. 7th grade was a pretty big year for me because, I'd gone into the counselor, and the counselor goes, hey, what do you want to do when you get older? I said, man, I'm going to take my 3'5" body, and I was a little chunky because we didn't have off season up there. And I said, I'm going to play pro ball. She was very kind. She said, well, that's a good deal, but you might ought to have something else in case you get hurt or something. So you might want to start looking around and see what you want to do. I saw all the coaches go out there. I watched these guys coach my brother and stuff. And I said, I think that'd be fun to go to school every day and get to coach and do all that. So I really started paying attention to that. Well, anyway, fast forward, my sister, they were stationed in Colorado, came back to Duncanville. And so the summer before my 9th grade year, she asked if I'd come down for 2 weeks. I came down and spent 2 months. And my brother-in-law's a sports junkie, and the Rangers had just moved to Arlington. That's how old I am. And for $2, we'd sit in Arlington Stadium out there and watch the Rangers play. And I said, it's all right. So finally, Mom calls up and says, hey, you going to come back? They're starting football. I said, oh, okay. So I flew back. Bad year. Parents split the sheets after 30 years. And so I kind of said, you know what? I'm a teenager. You start getting in your world. And I said, y'all do what you want to do. I'm moving to Texas. So Dad had come down, and I was coming anyway. So as soon as school was out, like June 16th, because they go late up there, and June 17th, I was on a plane coming down. Stayed with my sister. Found out Mom wasn't going to come in July, so registered school Duncanville, went there my 10th, 11th, and 12th grade year. Kind of like you, Ted, you run into some things. Never been west of Fort Worth. In my junior year, I was on the first state championship baseball team there at Duncanville, and wasn't very good, but I got to travel. I was at ERW. You know what ERW is? It's an eat, ride, and warm-up guy. All right, so they let me get on the bus, but I got to go to Midland, got to go to Lubbock, and then we got to go to Austin for a state tournament, man, and we win the thing. And so those are some neat experiences. Then the next year, I was kicking the ball up there, and my coach was good, got me to go to McMurray. Had a good time there. Met my wife there, so that was definitely a plus. Got to play football and do things I never thought I would as all-conference kicker. And I had to learn. I learned how to handle failure because a lot of teams I was on weren't very good. But now I had to learn how to handle success because it's pretty bad when you make a fool of yourself on TV because Abilene covers all their sports real well. And they came and did a deal on me and the punter, and I wasn't very good. I had some teammates got turned off. Life lesson. And so I got to redeem myself going into the last game against your favorite university, my senior year. And I got to redeem myself on TV and talk about my teammates and do it right. And then I went out against your favorite university and won 14-10. Even had a field goal taken off the scoreboard so we could go down there and kill the clock some more. And I was good with it because it was your university, even though I didn't know you. And so then we got married, taught a year there in Abilene, loved it, and then came to Stephenville, Texas. And I said, all my buddies asked me, he said, where are you going to go coach? I said, well, I have no idea where I'll land, but I'll tell you one place you'll never find me. And that's Stephenville, Texas. I ain't going there. So we moved here. And I said, oh, my goodness. And Buddy Forns and them saw me down. We had a fish fry coaches together. And he said, man, I said, I'm not going to be here more than 5 years. I'm out. I'm 23. Going to be a head coach or coordinator by the time I'm 30. Got my plans. Boom, 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 boom. I told you God has a sense of humor. Well, all of a sudden, the guy that hires me gets fired in December. So a new guy comes in. I didn't know how that was going. We were not very good. We were awful. We're getting beat, but I thought this was a good place where I could learn. Then it really went south. And a very good team that we had in junior high came through, and they didn't do real good as seniors, and so everybody got fired except for 2 guys. And luckily, I was one of them. Got to stay with Coach Browse, and then and learned so much more, and got on that role. And I've been with Coach Morris, Coach Copeland. So I had all these people, these great mentors that have been in my life, and I never had to move. And so what a blessing to go back and start when I filled out my resume for Dublin. I was like, man, this is a heavy hitter deal. And I didn't have to chase it. I didn't have to run. The good Lord's just taking care of us year after year after year. And then after 30 years at Stephenville, I was like, I think I'm done. I'm exhausted. I was a principal for the last 4 years. I had scars from certain officials that called our games. And I just said, man, I got to go to greener pastures. And about that time, out of the blue, one of the ladies at the school was on a school board member over here at Dublin, and I was coming out of a meeting. It was in November, and it was one of them days like, man, May can't get here soon enough, because I already told Norm, I said, 1.5 years, baby. I said, next Christmas I'm out. And I've never felt that way about working with kids, but I was getting so far away from them for me, because there's some great principals out there. Miss Snyder does a great job. That's not me. I'm not a desk job guy. I had to figure that out. And I didn't even know the kids' names when I was left in the 8th grade that last year. And she said, you ever think about coaching again? I went, oh, because I thought my opportunity was gone. And I said, okay. And so I interviewed for the job. Norma asked me how it went on the first interview. I said, well, it was great. I felt great. She goes, you think you'll get a call back? I said, I wouldn't call me back. Anyway, then I got a call back. Then I had to make a plan. And I was sitting there in the office. I said, well, Lee, I gotta do something. So I said, Coach Hardcastle, I'm going to go down there and say, he's going to determine what I do. I said, I know I'm not supposed to test you, but I got to know. So I go down there and I get with Coach Hardcastle. The hallway clears, and I said, Coach. He says, yeah. I said, got to ask you a question. I said, I'm a finalist for the head coaching job at Dublin. I said, if they offer it to me, I said, well, you go. You can be the offense coordinator. You can call all the plays. I said, I'll back up and I'll call the one. And he looked at me and he goes, yeah, I'll go. I'll tell Terry tonight. And I went, ah. And everything that's happened since we've been here has been unbelievable. I could go through every coach that I've hired, and I'll give Kellen, my son, as an example. They were coming up. He's coaching in San Antonio. His wife's in dental school. Calls me up, says, hey, I'm coming this way. You got a job for me? I said, no. I said, we're full. He said, so Stacy, my daughter, who doesn't want to do anything in the school business, has a job with the dancers. You can get her a job, but you can't get me a job. I said, don't start the family feud, son. So the Friday before he's getting hired over at Comanche, Dr. Snyder calls me up, and he says, and we got a school board meeting on Monday. He says, hey, we just had a math resignation. You can hire your son now. I said, what? So we waited 10 days, and I called him up and said, got to wait 10 days, but you get a chance to coach together. He goes, yeah, I'm in, Dad. So he comes aboard. So everything that's happened, this is where we were supposed to be at this time. I told Greg, I said, I don't know why the opportunity is coming at this time, but evidently whatever we've done at Stephenville is we're done here, and we have to go over here. And that the church I belong to in Stephenville, on Valley Grove, and Brother Ward was over there, and I called him up and I said, Brother Ward, I said, I can't go to church here anymore. I got to go where the kids are going. And I said, I need to what do I need to do about this deacon thing? And he goes, well, you don't have to do nothing with it. He said, it's no different than if you were going to Africa and stay there for a couple of years. You're on another mission. And I thought, well, that just reaffirmed my thought of why we're doing what we're supposed to be doing and where we're supposed to be. So been a great time, great deal, and made you eat some crow, and that was even funner, Jimmy. So, but what a blessing that we've had here since we've been here, and watching people put a smile on their face, and it's just not me, but I think it was the environment. I think it was the timing of everything that just happened here in Dublin, and I know the good Lord had His hand in it, because there's no way this would have happened without it. And so My mom had asked me all the time when I'd go up to visit her in the summer, she said, why don't you come back here to Jersey and do this? Well, first of all, I know Jersey's nice. To me, it's a septic tank. That's another story. But I came down here. I'm the only person in my family that's got a college degree. Well, I've got 3. And I know if I was up there, it wouldn't have happened. And so I see things that have happened in my life that have really been awesome because of where I was led to be. And so, kids are doing good, mama's doing good, and everything here is just been awesome. So that's kind of the cliff notes.
Now, see, Ted, I told you, I warned you beforehand. This guy can talk. All right.
That's good.
Teddy set me up.
Hey, I'll tell you, he's the only coach in the state of Texas that's got an hour-long radio show.
Awesome.
Tom Landry didn't even have that, but he does. Now, all right. Now let me go with this. I sent you guys some questions and everything the other day. Different things prepared to share, and it's easy. And I want to start with the high points. All right. And I know it wasn't you always with your careers. You haven't always been up on the mountain, but you both have reached that top of that mountain at one point or another there in your career. And so share a little bit about that experience, if you would.
Well, there was, it was a journey to get there. And I went to a couple of bull riding schools out in California. First one I went to was Larry Mahan's. And I'd been on one bull before I went to his school when I was 14 years old. And I got on several bulls that week. It was in Lake Comanche, California. And by the end of the school, I got on this little bull. He'd been to the NFR. He was a finals bull, and he jumped out there and spun and bucked, turned back to the right. And I was able to stay on him for, 8 seconds. And I didn't even know what I was doing. I was just catching my balance, trying to stay on. And I got off, and I came back to the buck, walked back over there to the bucking chutes, and Larry said, if you keep improving the way you've improved at this school this week, you're going to be a champion someday. Well, you can just imagine what that did to my confidence. So I leave this school, and I'm pretty excited. And I go back to where I've been getting on practice bulls. And when I'm 14 years old, I probably weigh 100 pounds. I don't weigh much. I'm a little kid. And I get on this big old 2,000-pound Charolais bull because my confidence is high. I think I can ride anything. And this big old Charolais bull, he jerks me down and nearly breaks my jaw. Well, for the next 6 months, when I'm getting on the back of a bull, I'm asking myself this question. What are you doing? Are you crazy? This bull can kill you. For 6 months, I had to get through that. And eventually I got on this one little bull that jumped around. He didn't buck me off, and I stayed on him and stayed on him and stayed on him. But he's the only one that I wanted to get on because, that's where my confidence was. So I get through that, and I get to where I can ride all them bulls at that little practice place that I went to in California, in Oakdale. And then I go to Gary LeFew's bull riding school about 2 years later. So I'm 16, and I'm starting to develop a little bit, mature, and I get introduced to psycho-cybernetics and positive thinking at that school. And there's a lot of kids that went to that exact same school that was far more talented than I was. But when I left that school, it was really a life-changing experience because I really learned about belief. I really learned the principle behind belief. And I started setting goals for myself. Little goals at first. Stay on this next bull 5 jumps if I got bucked off in 4 on the last one. I just kept setting these goals for myself, and I saw how that worked. I understood how my mind worked. If I was to give my mind a target and I stayed focused, that would come to pass. I learned about faith at that time. I learned about having a real relationship with God. And it just, I set those goals. So the first year as a professional bull rider, God set it up. I rodeoed with Jerry Beagley. In '79, Jerry Beagley was runner-up to Donnie Gay for the World Championship. And now I'm a 19-year-old kid out of high school. I have not traveled anywhere. And I have not seen the kind of bulls that I'm fixing to see across United States and Texas. Because Texas, if you're a bull rider and you look back through history, all the world champions came from Texas. So I realized that Texas was a place I probably needed to hang out if I was going to move up the ladder. So I rodeoed with Jerry Beagley and in 1980, and my goal was to win Rookie of the Year. Well, if I hadn't had that opportunity to really rodeo with Jerry, I would have never won Rookie of the Year, because I didn't know how to travel or get around to all these rodeos that I needed to go to. So Jerry kind of took me under his arm, entered us, and got me around, and I ended up winning. And I, it was a mile marker for me. And then I had and the next year, so I'm pretty excited, pretty confident. The next year is 1981, and my goal is to qualify for the national finals. And I went as hard as I possibly could, and I went broke trying to make it to qualify for the finals. Well, you can imagine what that did to me inside. My confidence was really destroyed. I had to go home and get a job and go to work because I was broke, and I was at that point, all this positive thinking stuff was not working. I was like, oh man. So anyhow, I regrouped. I learned a lot. We always learn so much more when we say ouch. When things don't work out, God's talking to us. He's telling us, look, there might be a better way. And so I started, you listen, but you don't really listen, if you know what I'm saying. Mm-hmm. He's trying to tell us something, but we're not really listening, but we're kind of listening. You know what I'm saying?
I understand.
So that's where I was, and then I had a tough year in '81, and in '82, I reset my goals, and I started rodeoing with Charlie Sampson, and he had a phenomenal year. He won the world championship, and I did all the entering that year. Because Jerry taught me everything, how to get around, what rodeos to enter. Because there's, at that point there was over 500 rodeos across the United States, and you wanted to enter the best ones where they paid the most, and you didn't want to have a day where you wasn't employed. You wanted to be up at a rodeo every single day, somewhere. So you would have that opportunity to qualify for the finals or win the world championship. Well, I did all this understanding through Jerry. I got all this understanding through Jerry, and I was able to help Charlie win a world championship in '82. So, and I qualified for my first finals. Well, you can imagine, what that did to my confidence and belief. It changed, it just took me to a new level. So I qualified for the finals, and then my next goal was to win the world championship. So at that point, I'm in '82, I would have been 21 years old, and then I rodeoed, qualified for the finals in '82 and '83, and in '84 I ended up fourth for the world championship, and I got pretty close. And then the finals was moving out to Las Vegas in '85. The money was going to double from what it was in Oklahoma City. It was going to double. We rode for $4,000 go-rounds in Oklahoma City, and we was going to Las Vegas where it was going to pay $8,000. And the average was going to pay, if you won the average, you're going to win another $24,000. Well, that was a lot of money back then. So
that's still
a lot of money in my world, man. I'm telling you.
So I'd really learned a lot about this belief thing, and I learned a lot about visualizing and becoming familiar with where you want to go and where you want to be. You got to become familiar with it in your mind. You got to believe that that's happening to you. And once you get to that point, that's where you learn what faith is really all about. Faith is about that thing that's out there, and you believing in it until it's here. And I got that, and I learned about that. And I when I would get bucked off a bull, and I got bucked off a lot, okay, I would come back to the bucking chutes telling myself, you are the best, you are the best, you are the best. And what I was doing is I was replacing doubting negative thoughts with positive thoughts. Every time I got bucked off, I would do that. Well, the mental rehearsal in my mind that was going on constantly was, you are the champ, you are the champ, you are the champ. So that year at the finals in '85, I was having a finals like I had dreamed about in my dreams. Because I'd played this role of being a champion so much in my mind that I didn't think anything else could happen. You know what it's like to be going for a championship when it's all on the line, and you've got to perform. But it wasn't like that. It was like I had done it so many times in my mind, I felt like it was the only thing that could happen. That's how I felt. So I didn't feel any pressure. I just feel like I'm going to go do my job. I'm going to go do what I've been practicing in my mind over and over and over. Well, on that last day, I was one bull ahead of everybody else for the average, and I'd moved up and got, closed the gap between Tough and Tough Hedeman. And if I rode this bull, I was going to be the world champ. Well, I was wearing the exact shirt that I saw in my mind over and over. I was in that part. I was breathing, living this part. And when that chute gate swung open, it was just like I'm doing my job. It was like time had slowed down, and I was just making all the right moves, and I was in perfect time with this bull. And when the whistle blew, it was just like I saw it. I jumped off, threw my hands in the air, and I was the world champ. And that's just how it worked. And I know you being a coach, I know you understand this stuff really clear. And that's what I do now. All I do, I've been living my dream. And like I said at the beginning, I never, in my wildest dream, ever thought I was going to live in Texas. I was a California kid. I love California. I loved it out there. But Stephanie, my wife, came into my life.
Just had an anniversary, by the way.
Yeah, 15 years. And then these two boys show up.
Just had to be there.
Now that gets you right there,
Oh,
doesn't
boy. I'm blessed. And so we come back here, and, we set things up, and it was in God's timing, and it's perfect, and I get to live here and live another dream.
There you go. Thank you, Ted. Bob, you went from coming to Stephenville, getting beat up and all that sort of stuff, to climbing to the mountain. What were those years like?
Well, I tell you, when I went to Stephenville in first year, 80, 81 was it. In Abilene, 80, 81, 82 was my first year here. And, and it was pretty beat down. People don't talk about those days, but we went in there and we had some good-looking kids. And, we were 2-8, 1-9. Had some really good kids, but we didn't know any better. But, boy, when you be around negativity, what you're talking about, that breeds negativity. And I found myself making the same excuse as everybody else. Well, we're the smallest school in the district. We don't have da-da-da. Well, Art came in over there at Stephenville. Now, the caveat to that was we had a really good junior high class coming. Skilled people. Brandon Stewart, Friels. All those guys were 7th graders, fixed to be 8th graders. And all of a sudden, this guy named Leonard Rhodes starts calling me. Well, Leonard and I played ball together at McMurray. And he's from rural Texas. Well, Art's from rural Texas. And Leonard was coaching with him at Georgetown because that tree is pretty tight. Well, all of a sudden, Leonard's going, hey, tell me about your skill guys. What kind of team? So I'm telling him, I said, well, we're kind of short on linemen, but skill-wise probably be the best since been here. It's pretty good stuff. And anyway, come to find out, well, they hire Art. I didn't put 2 and 2 together till, he comes in on a Monday, February 1st. Is that ironic? Because my first day in Dublin was, well, no, it was supposed to be February 1st. We had freeze first 4 days. Of course, my buddy said that was all my fault because they thought the only time I'd ever moved from, never mind, that's another story. Anyway, yeah. But anyway, so this guy comes in, starts talking about, well, you guys look good, barrel chest and everything. He said, but y'all don't have no legs. And I'm thinking, this guy's coming in acting like they're going to win? Does he not realize we're the second smallest school in 4A? Well, he walks around with this positivity, so I called him up. He comes in on a Monday, and on Tuesday he'd already fired 2 guys, so I called him up. I said, I need to interview with you. So I go in there on Friday, and I said, hey, just let me know if you need my job. But I'd like to be there. These kids are good kids, and I'd like to be there when we beat Brownwood, because that's all I could see. And he kind of, if you know Art, he'll probably go, yeah, okay. There's bigger things than that. I go, no, it's not. We ain't beat them in 23 years. This is big in the community. And he's looking at me like, whoa. So anyway, so he said, just hold on. So I don't know I have a job until the last week of school. I had a job, but I didn't know what my job description was going to be. So anyway, but I said, you know what? There's going to be some things I can learn from this guy. I told Norm, because I was at the golf course every day at 4 o'clock. I was playing some pretty good golf. 9 to 11 holes every day, 36 on the weekends each day. I was having a great time. Well, he comes in, man. I said, man, I told Norm, I said, well, I got 2 choices. I sit on my tail end, go get me another job, no big deal. But I said, this kind of guy, the only way I'm going to bug him is if I bust my tail and then he says I'm fired, now it's going to bug him because he's going to have to give me a good recommendation. And I said, along the way, I might learn a few things. Well, I get involved, and all of a sudden, now, excitement, that's contagious too. So all of a sudden, I'm with this guy that thinks we're all right. We can go. I said, well, our linemen aren't very big. He goes, we're all right. All we need to do is we need our guys to get in the way. Okay, I'll play with you. So we go on, and we start rolling, and as the attitude changes, I'm looking, where'd all these kids come out for football? Because we always had good numbers in junior high, but now they're staying in high school. And these kids are walking around, and little old banty roosters, but they're walking around tall, man, that put big neck rolls on every shoulder pad. So when they went out on the field, they looked huge. And I'm going, man, this is so being in that experience and watching us. And the next year, his first year here, we tied Brownwood 7-7. They come back on the bus, man, and they're circling the courthouse, honking, because the drought had ended. They did not win. It's a 7-7 ball game. You thought we won the state championship. But then you could say, please, now the next year we get beat something like 63-21 against Brownwood. And Art walked in Saturday morning. We're all doom and gloom. He says, well, that was just a funky night, boys. He takes it and throws it in the trash. He said, let's move on. Let's move on. There's nothing good from that. So I was watching that. So all of a sudden now, the next year, that year, we go into the last game of the season. This will be familiar to you. Last game of the season, and we've got to beat Cleburne to get in the playoffs. So me and a buddy, we're scouting down there at Waco and scouting Belton. And I'm sitting right next to the Cleburne scouts. And we're sitting there looking at each other. I said, I'm fixing to mess with these Cleburne scouts. I said, hey, I told them at halftime, I said, hey, man, we're up 26-0. I was just lying. We didn't have cell phones or nothing. I was just making it up. They're, oh, man. So, well, about the fourth quarter, that guy comes in. He says, and I kept telling my guy I'm with, I said, sure hope we're winning this game because this would really set the world on fire. Anyway, we wind up, the guy comes in there about 5 minutes to go in the game. He says, hey, you Cleburne guys can go. Stevensville's winning 20-0. Guess he gave it away that I was not telling the truth. Anyway, the next week we go down and play Belton. And Belton, top 10 school. They might have been in the top 5. They were huge. Played them at Floyd Casey Stadium. And, again, you go out on the field during warm-up, and this is all new to me. And I'm looking down there, and I'm looking at our guys. I'm thinking, it's a mismatch, boys. And we wind up winning the game. And that's probably the biggest game in the turnaround. Because all of a sudden we're beating people we're not supposed to beat. And that belief in the kids and the way they got electrified with it, the way they started seeing it and the way it was presented to them, like, hey, we're getting used to this. This now becomes the expectation instead of the exception. Keep your eye on the prize. Tony Dungy says keep the main thing the main thing. And so as you're rocking along, you go through there. And then the next year, in 90, we go to the semifinals. We play at Texas Stadium, the old one with the carpet. And we get beat by Wilmer Hutchins in the semis. Wilmer Hutchins goes on to win it. But during that time, I mean, that's one of the games that we'd always talk about as staff. Said, if we knew then what we know now, we'd have beat Wilmer Hutchins. So anyway, so then we come back. You know, we go 3 rounds deep with a team that shouldn't have got out of district. And I'm thinking, there's something to this, the way we're presenting it, the way these kids are believing, because we're beating people we shouldn't beat. And then in 93, we go down to Austin. And you talk about having that feeling when you're on that bull. And when you walked into it on that world champion night and you said, let's get it on. And that year in 93, you know, we're behind in all 6 playoff games. We're behind in all of them. And the kids were like, oh, well. And we come back and win. And we come back and win. Well, we go out there, and I mean, we're warming up, and we're kind of ragtag looking in T-shirts. Not much for undergarments under your shoulder pads. We looked awful. And then here comes Lamar coming out and looked like the University of Pittsburgh. And again, I'm thinking, what are we doing here? And, you know, and we did some things like the old swinging gate right before halftime and caught them off guard, scored, went up, and we proceeded to beat them. But it was funny because we go in the locker room there, and we're at the University of Texas, and our keel had been so even through the season. It had always been who's next. And we'd celebrate for a little bit, and then we'd pack our bags, and we'd go on. Because we knew, hey, tomorrow we're in the weight room, tomorrow, and we just keep going. And it was such a weird feeling because 16 games, we started back in the 1st of August, and we beat Lamarck, who was really good, and we cheerleaded for a little bit, and everybody packed their bags, and I just kind of nudged one of my coaching buddies. I said, check this out. Everybody's acting like, hey, all right, who's next? When's next week coming? Because they were in that mindset that it never got too high, never got too low. Mm-hmm. You know, champion's going to play. Here's average. Champion's going to play right here. So they're never going to be devastated by a loss, and they're never going to be, like, over the hill on a win. They're going to try to play right here. So we did that in 93. We did it in 94. We came back and won. Again, beat Lamarck. We're down 14-0 at halftime. The Fox commentator says, hey, what do you think, Coach Prowell's not looking good? Art goes, oh, we're fine. Because Art would always tell us, said, look, man, you play a good team. You keep them close at halftime. He said, our conditioning will take over. He had the kids believing our conditioning will take over in the second half and beat your butt. You know, now I tell you that because you think about when Junior was playing. He was a senior. Junior. Anyway, we had to beat Clifton to get in. Mm-hmm. We had to come into that deal, and we're down 13-6 and 13-7 at halftime. And the kids come in there in the locker room, and I said, it's all right, boys. It's how it's supposed to be when you play good people. You just keep yourself just right, get you nourished, get your drink. We'll go out beat them in the second half because we'll have everything that we need in our condition, and we'll overtake what they do. And then we come back and we win the game. Lefty has a great game, and all of a sudden now we're first playoff win in 50 years. And then we go win a by-district championship. You know, and then we play the number 1 team in state, so we did get our name on TV. When Kellen was having that baby, I said, look, man, there's Dublin written up there. We're one of the casualties of Newton. But you start being a part of that when people say you can't, and then you hit that belief and you say, yes, you can. And you get in there, and that's what you talk about. That's what gave you the confidence to take this job. Open the door to where the weight room was. It was a huge room, not much there. And I looked at it, I said, where do I sign? Let's go to work. Because that's the only way myself, I felt like I could go in and take this job and believe that we could be successful as young men. And it's not always about the winning. It's about what product do you put out when they walk across that stage. And I felt like we had the tools already in place to get that done. But it was going to take a little while and take a lot of work. So then we get to have opening night. First year, a lot of hype. Only had a 15-minute radio show then, big guy over there down the road on Highway 6. Yeah, okay. So we get up there, and it's high. Coach Hardcastle's rolling, and really excited playing at Tarleton. We had a large contingent playing on Thursday night, So a lot of friends from Stephenville were there. Our side was packed. It was a whiteout. And we line up, and first play, they had a big old kid for Heiko, and he hit Danny right in the mouth. And Danny's head hit the back of his heels, and he snaps the ball over the quarterback's head for about a 20-yard loss. And so we call another play. Anyway, now we've got third down and about 65, and I'm telling Coach Hardcastle, breathe. It's going to be okay. And but anyway, we lose that game 61-0, and I felt so embarrassed for the lead up to it because I knew we were going to play well. You could tell the practice. You could tell what the kids were doing. We didn't even stop for the school song. I said, just take it on in. And we went in the locker room. I said, guys, it's my fault. I said, too much made of nothing. There's a lot of hype, a lot of stuff. And actually, the administration told me the next week, hey, we don't need to play in facilities like that in big games. I said, no, you're wrong. I said, we're going to play in facilities like that. We're going to try to get stuff like that because we got to learn how to play in it. If you don't ever play, like you said, you had to find the bulls. You could have rode it anywhere you want in the state. But you went to where the heat was. I said, no, man, we're going to go play somewhere else. And, I had to get you out of retirement to call a game down there at Mary Hardin Baylor because we had an open date. We found Teague, Texas, number 13 team in the state in 3A Division I. They're saying, what are you doing? And old Donnie, he was a happy guy, their coach. But, you played and we got our butt kicked. But the next year, it wasn't a butt kicking. We competed our butt off, and it made a turnaround for those kids. And we had a severely tough schedule. The year we go 1-9, after being in the playoffs back-to-back by district champions, and we go 1-9 the next year. We have to win the last game to have it one. But it was such a great season because we learned so much about playing good people at that level. And I'd have coaching buddies say, well, how is it, man, you losing the kids? I said, no, kids are all right, man. They understand what the focus is and where we're going because we set that out in front of what we got to do in order to be successful. And I said, not only the kids, but the coaches have got to learn how to coach against people like that because those are some good coaches. And so then that brought us back to going into the playoffs again. So, you're right. You learn from the failures, but you can't ever get down from it. So you learn from it and then stay focused. It'll bring you back, but you can't ever get too high. You can't ever get too low because if you do, then, we've seen that guy, and you guys know it. You go down there and celebrate after a touchdown. Yay. And before you know it, the other team's already scoring at the other end, and you can't. You got to score, line up, do your job, get it done. And when we're through, we can go in there and celebrate in the locker room, or pour water on each other on the 50-yard line.
There you go.
You know what you said that was really good is like one thing that I did is I always traveled with guys that rode better than I did.
Sure.
And so it would always help me elevate my game, and I would learn a lot from traveling with them kind of guys.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
You bet.
That's the only way you get better.
Yeah.
Well, let me ask y'all this, because the current situation that we're in, regardless of what side anybody may be on, because the reality of it is what we have viewed. Ted, how old are you?
59.
59. Bob, how old are you?
62 and a half.
62 and a half. I'm 48. The reality is none of us have never really have seen anything like this, okay? We are accustomed to our lives, living our lives in a certain way. There's a normalcy that we're accustomed to, okay? Odds are coming out of this for a lot of people, our normal life is going to be changed in some form or in some fashion. How do you encourage people out there right now to not live in fear?
I just never been one of those kind of guys that, I always, faith first and really believe because I've been in some situations where I feared for my life.
Mm-hmm.
And I know what that feels like, and I know that's not from God. When you feel fear for your life, look, the worst thing can happen is we die, and if we do, we're going to be with Him. Our last breath is with Him. We live here and we die here, and then we go be with Him. Well, whenever you get that so deep into your heart, into your mind, and you're feeding you're feeding your mind the right stuff, and that becomes your belief, you know that nothing here can take that away from you. What can separate you from the love of God?
Right.
You know, that is where, you know, that's where my mind and my heart is. And that's how I feel about this. I don't let this, you know, slow me down a bit. I still got my goals. I still moving forward. I'm still working with them boys every single day. If anything, I get to spend a little more time with them. You know, because we're not running around so much. And we're learning some things that's very important. And I'm going to take advantage of this time.
So there's a blessing there.
You bet there's a blessing.
There you go. Bob, what about you?
I'm fixing to run through a wall over here. He's got me. Ted, you got me kind of jacked up right now, because that's true. I mean, in a competitive world, you know, you've got, you know, two ways to look at it, you know, and I refuse to ever look at it the other way.
That's right.
I mean, everything is a blessing. There's a purpose for everything that's going on, and we're going to make the most of this situation.
Amen.
Been delivering meals every morning since spring break. This is the first week we didn't. We got traded off with another group, but you know, to go see the kids, drop off the meals. How you doing? What's up? See kids riding their bicycles again. Seeing a lot more family time. I know there's hardships out there. I know things are tough. I'm not oblivious to that. I feel very blessed where I'm at this point. But in the same token, I look at God's hand in this and saying, you know, there's a purpose that everything's slowing down. Excuse me, because I tell you what, we got into a society where we weren't breathing. We were moving so fast. Mm-hmm. And, you know, we weren't, you know, taking care of the ones we need to take care of. And that's tough. So I think this has been needed. Not that it's, you know, I'd like for it to be over because I'm missing the kids. But I think something really strong and good's going to come from it.
Oh, I believe that.
Yeah.
One of the things that both of y'all have in common, you know, I know, Bob, you probably hadn't seen it, but like on Monday nights or Wednesday nights now, when they were having the buckouts, you know, Ted's been he's been a big part of that out here, and that's geared towards kids. Sure. And you know, so you're coaching in a sense. You got to coach a PBR team this last year in the Global Cup up there in Arlington. You've devoted your life to coaching and working with kids. In the road, the thing with this in the rodeo world, guys aren't able to travel up and down the road right now and make that living. You've got there's kids, you know, that this was their last year to compete at the junior level, to compete at those junior rodeos or those high school rodeos. You know, you've got kids that, man, this was their last year to run track, to play baseball, play softball, you know, all play golf to represent their school. You know, and for me, that's my heart breaks for those kids, because when you talk about those senior moments, you know, they're never going to get those back. How do you encourage that group of kids right there to, you know, not to give up on your dream, man, keep chasing that dream to be the world champion? To how do you encourage them to say, man, hey, this not getting to play a final baseball season doesn't define you, if that makes sense? What's your advice to them?
Man, that's tough. Just what I said earlier, you know, we got to keep a positive attitude and look for opportunities. There's great opportunities that's going to come out of this setup that God has provided. This is a setup. God's in control. He hasn't left. He loves us more than he ever did. And keep a positive attitude. You know, don't think of it as something you lost. Don't look at it as you just, you know, you lost something. Look at it as, you know what, this is something else that I'm going to get through, and I'm going to make it. And I might lose out a little bit. I've lost plenty. I've went home from the NFR second 3 times. You know, that going home second, that doesn't feel good. Not when you want to be the best. Look, there's going to be another opportunity, so don't quit. Don't give up. Keep a positive attitude and keep moving forward.
You know, in athletics, probably one of the toughest things for a coach is when you know this kid's been working real hard and doing a really good job and busting his tail, and whether it's in practice or in a game, and all of a sudden you hear this ouch, and you see the kid laying on the ground, he's grabbing his knee or shoulder or his elbow, and trainer comes out, and you're looking in his eyes, and you're saying, hey, man, it's going to be all right. You're going to be okay. And, when he gets up, we get over there, and he says, and then the next day the doctor says, well, you're going to be out 8 weeks. Well, that's season. So it's kind of a season-ending deal for him. And so when you're with these kids all the time and you tell them, say, appreciate the journey, learn from it, because you never know what bumps are coming in there, because we talk to the kids all the time about that. I said, you need to play. If you're in the band, you need to play as well as you can play, because nobody guarantees you tomorrow. Nobody guarantees you the next day. Nobody guarantees it's going to be taken away. And it's funny, we go back to Kellen, he's 7th grade football player, and, he thinks he's a real macho kid, 7th grade. Well, all the kids were busting on him because I was going to be his coach and stuff. So we picture day, and I said, hey, man, come on over here. Just take a picture. I ain't taking a picture with you. I said, I've waited 20 years to coach my own kid. I said, get your butt over here. We're going to get a picture taken. I said, I ain't getting a picture taken. So he goes out the back door. We're doing it in the gym over there by Chamberlain. So I send the coach out there. I said, grab him, do whatever you got, bring him in here. We're going to take a picture together in 7th grade. So he comes in, looks like a prison photo. So we get in the car that evening coming home. I said, let me explain something to you. I said, the last time I saw my dad alive, my dad, when I was a senior in high school, we were going around looking at schools to go to, he'd had a heart attack. So we wound up the summer between my freshman year of college and my senior year, had open heart surgery. And this is back 1976. So it's not as frequent as it is now. So they said you have the surgery, you get 6 years. If you don't, you got about 6 months. So I said, Kellen, let me tell you something, buddy. I said, I want to make sure that nobody guarantees I'll be here tomorrow. But I don't want to leave no stone left unturned on how I feel about you. I said, so the last time I saw my dad, I said, now I talked to him on the phone. He was living in Mesquite. But I said, last time I saw my dad physically, the last words I said to him, I hugged him, kissed him on the cheek, which I had never done. I said, Dad, I love you. And he said it back. And I said, that's the last time I saw him physically. The next time that was in August. And September, we were going up as Kellen's birthday's on the 10th. It was like September 5th. And we get the call that he's in the hospital. And so he had passed. And I said, I just want to let you know that I don't want to leave no stone left unturned. I don't want you to know how I feel about you. He said, oh, I got it, Dad. I said, it ain't about what anybody else thinks. I said, that's how I am with you and your sister and your mom. So after that, we didn't have no problem. We went to Tarleton to play. And I always told him to hang out. He's a running back. Always hung out with the linemen. All these big linemen, he looked like a little water boy. He'd come over there in the middle of the field. We were kicking. Had the Tarleton kickers, the Stephenville kickers, and we're kicking. And he just comes over, gives a big hug in front of all them guys. How you doing, Dad? And it was a lesson that not only I taught him, but I also tell our kids, you never know when your last shot is. Don't ever take it for granted. There's times I say, hey, man, they're laying around the locker room. I said, you're a senior. Why don't you go out there and go to the cages and hit a little bit? You got a little bit of time. Oh, yeah, I got you, Coach. I got you. I said, man, you just never know. And I think this is one of those life lessons, a lot of those young people that says, treasure the journey, treasure the moment. Something good's going to come out of it. And I think, if the kids are thinking right, and if they're listening, then I think that they're going to turn around. And there's going to be some experiences in their life down the road that they're going to draw back on their senior year that's going to help them raise their kids. And I really believe that in my heart. Knowing the kids we had up there at Dublin, the kids we're involved with, and even it's funny because some of the kids that we've had in Stephenville are starting to post stuff on Facebook about, how it was when we were over there. And, you just kind of takes you back a little bit, but you feel good because now these guys are 28, 30 years old. I mean, they got kids of their own, so now they're thinking in terms of how you were hoping to teach them. So I hope this bunch of kids that have come through, especially our kids at Douglas, no different than kids at Comanche or Stephenville. I know their coaches have all talked to them the same way, that nothing's guaranteed tomorrow. Make the most of it. Don't just take it for granted. And I think that's a lot of this slowing down is what's happening right now. So it's a teachable moment, but it's all going to be good. I promise.
There you go,
Jim.
There you go. Well, guys, I tell you what, we're going to wrap this up now, and it's amazing how fast an hour goes by. But I hope everybody has enjoyed it as much as I have. There's a lot of negativity out there. Sure. We're bombarded with it every single day, and I just appreciate both of you for your openness, for your honesty. Now, I know this is something that and I appreciate y'all being guinea pigs with this as well, for first time to ever do this. And I know we could take both of y'all and we could do this for a couple of hours and just keep talking and keep going. You guys, y'all both fascinate me. You do. You both fascinate me. It's the journey that God has brought all of us on to get us to where we're at right now is mind-blowing to me sometimes, but it's also a reminder that God is still in control and he's doing something amazing. You know, Ted, I wore a maroon shirt that my wife got me and made me wear. You know, she's a Brownwood girl. Thought it might get a rise out of him, but he never even noticed, never even said nothing, man. So
I was focused.
That's good.
That's why I didn't look at you. I kept looking at Ted the whole time.
But folks, take this video, share it, like it, get it out there in front of people, because everybody needs to hear something positive, needs to know that, God is in control of this thing, and, it's going to be good. I listened to a message today, and I'm going to close us out with this. A guy talking about he don't want to go back to normal. You know, the Israelites cried out when they were let out of Egypt. Why didn't you just leave us in Egypt? They wanted to go back to normalcy. I'm excited about what's coming because it's going to be something good. Guaranteed. Thank you, brother. Hey guys, I'm gonna pray with us. If you didn't get to watch this live, we are gonna upload it to YouTube later. Share it, like it, comment on it, tell your friends about it. If they need to hear something positive, I guarantee you there's something that one of these men said that's gonna lift their spirits and lift their day up. Let me pray with us, and then we're gonna sign off here. Let's pray, fellas. Father God, once again, I thank you for this day. Lord, I thank you for the wisdom that's been shared up here. Lord, I thank you for the honesty and the openness, and Lord, the passion. God, the passion about the positivity. Lord, about thinking positive. Lord, about thinking like a champion. Father, not letting the bad times get you down, but continuing to move forward. Lord, that's a message that we all need to hear. Lord, that's a reminder that we all need to be reminded of. And Father, that doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if we're 14 years old or if we're 84 years old. Lord, we need to be reminded of that each and every day. God, bless these men, bless their families. Lord, bless each and every one who's watching this. Lord, bless those that are going to watch it. Jesus, may your light shine. May your light shine through everything that we do. Father, it's in your name that we pray. Amen. Amen. God bless you guys. Good? Yeah.
And Ronnie says, we have to redo this. It didn't take.
We're good. Did the sound finally go through? All right.
Ted, you had me fired up, buddy. I ain't gonna get on no bull, but I'll go watch you.
Don't think this dude could still ride.
Coach, I'm telling you, Coach, I'm looking at him.
I wanted to ask you this question. Like, all them different guys you coach, do you keep up with any of them and see how their life is?
Yeah, I mean, that's what Facebook.